Hey there, my name is James Lee. Welcome to another segment of 5149 on Breaking Points. And today's topic, the future of housing in America.
Oh, we have breaking news on Wells Fargo in overtime. The bank, which used to be the #1 mortgage lender in the U.S., is stepping back from the housing market in a very big way. CNBC.com's Hugh Sohn just broke that story. He joins us more. Hugh, what can you tell us here?
Hey, Scott, good to be with you. So first of all, the thing you have to know about Wells Fargo is this was their pride and joy, the U.S. mortgage business. This was the generator of a lot of their profits over the years. And as recently as 2019, they were the biggest mortgage lender in the country.
That's right. A few weeks ago, America's largest mortgage lender, Wells Fargo, decided to pull back from their mortgage lending business, their quote unquote pride and joy, and also a big source of the company's revenue for many, many years. Historically, like you see on your screen, they've dominated the mortgage lending industry with double the market share of their next largest competitor, JP Morgan Chase. So what exactly is going on here? Why would Wells Fargo voluntarily close up shop and dismantle their pride and joy? Are they tired of making money? Spoiler alert, no.
We're going to become a renter nation in this country. Renting will become the economic choice and the desirable choice.
That is a big clue. Mega investor Grant Cardone says, forget the American dream of homeownership. Turns out we've been dreaming the wrong dream. Apparently, renting is actually the economical choice and the desirable choice. Who knew?
Lots of Americans are facing a housing decision and trying to decide whether they should rent or buy.
Is it better to rent or buy in this environment? It seems like people are stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Well, right now, there is a very clear answer when it comes to which is the more prudent financial choice. You should rent. Owning a house is nice, but as the great Busta Rhymes told us in 1997, make sure you're stacking your ones. Floss a little, invest up in a mutual fund.
I don't actually get that joke. Someone please explain that in the comments below. But the point is, the Wall Street Journal also thinks that people should rent a home instead of buy. Bloomberg, America should become a nation of renters. Business Insider, millennials aren't buying homes, and it might not be because they can't afford them. Some actually prefer to rent instead. CNBC, self-made millionaire, don't buy a home unless you can afford to waste money. You can see over the past few years, for some reason, the prevailing opinion of numerous mainstream publications, financial experts, real estate investors, and many others has become that for a regular person, homes are actually a bad investment, and becoming a nation of renters is good. But if all that is true, explain to me this headline from late 2022. JP Morgan is about to spend $1 billion on hundreds of rental homes across the US on the way to becoming a mega landlord. Quote, Haven Realty Capital and JP Morgan Chase's asset management arm said they will invest up to $1 billion to develop build-to-rent single-family homes across the country. And there's the con. They are telling regular Americans that buying homes is a bad investment while simultaneously spending billions of their own dollars buying up the exact same homes, presumably because they see it as a great investment. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. Think about it for a second. Their actions are actually suggesting that it's not necessarily the case that buying homes is a bad investment or that the younger generation prefers to rent. The more likely truth is a change in business strategy, and that going forward, instead of lending you the money to buy a home, banks are now going to use that money to buy and build homes that they have no intention of selling to you, hence the pivot from Wells Fargo. That's the future of housing. We are headed towards a world where there will be very few mortgages to write because most everybody will be renting.
The lack of available homes and sky-high prices are giving life to a novel concept in housing, built-to-rent communities. Single-family homes with high-end finishes, top-flight security, even a doggy door. But no mortgage, and the idea is gaining steam. One of America's biggest home builders, Taylor Morrison, says it expects build-to-rent to make up nearly half of its business in the next few years. And my next guest is a pioneer of build-to-rent properties. He just partnered with Taylor Morrison to take his concept across the country. Let's welcome in Todd Wood. Are these homes generally rent-to-own homes, or if people want home ownership, do they have to leave, kind of pursue that elsewhere?
They have to pursue that elsewhere. These are communities that are single-story, detached for rental communities that are highly amenitized, with it's almost kind of a resort style living environment. So somebody comes in and there are reasons that they want to rent. If you look at, many of the reasons that, if you look at the millennial base, they've come out, they have high debt in their education, they're putting off marriage, they want to be able to have flexibility in their work where they can just travel, they want a lock and leave environment. They choose not to buy until the timing is right for them. So as we sit and really get inside their psychographic of why they want to live there, why they can't, a lot of it has to do with home prices are skyrocketing at this moment for all the reasons that you've been talking about. Rental also is not a bad word that it used to be years ago. Renting is acceptable.
Yeah.
And people enjoy renting for all different kind of reasons.
I want you to listen closely to those words that he's using. Renting is acceptable. People enjoy renting. Millennials want flexibility. They are renters by choice. Except, are they really renters by choice if the reality is that they choose not to buy because they can't afford to due to stagnant wages or student debt or skyrocketing home prices, etc.? I mean, part of the reason why home prices have skyrocketed is because A, there's just not enough supply, and B, the supply that does exist is being scooped up by Wall Street and other institutional investors. So once again, this is an example of the ruling class creating a problem and then selling us a quote-unquote solution to that problem, a solution that, just so happens to make the ruling class billions while simultaneously increasing their control over the working class, a sort of modern-day reincarnation of feudalism, if you could think about it that way. There's also this other talking point that Wall Street is a scapegoat and they actually own very few homes. So I just want to push back on that a little bit. From Vice News as of November 2022, quote, institutional investment companies own only 3% of the single-family home rental market. So it doesn't sound too high, but they have saturated some areas like Atlanta, where they own about 1 in 5 single-family rentals and are amassing more. You see, data could be cherry-picked to tell a story, and it is also just a point in time. We have to pay attention to what is coming. They are telling us with their actions. Billions more dollars from banks and investors flooding into the housing market. They aren't stopping, they're amassing more. So that proportion is only guaranteed to increase. You heard one example earlier, one of America's largest home builders, 50% plus of their business and growing are build for rent homes. There are of course people who say, I don't want to buy a home for X, Y, and Z reasons, or for other individuals, it would maybe make more sense for them to rent versus buy. That could very well be the case. People have to run the math themselves. I'm not meant to give financial advice, but just to give you the facts, according to Pew Research, based on your income and net worth, the wealthier you are, the more likely you are to own a home, which, based on my interpretation of the data and the assumption that rich people aren't stupid with their money, I would say that if you could buy a home, you probably would buy a home. Comment below, if you could afford to buy, would you? Or discuss why you wouldn't buy if you could. But my opinion is that it is not a coincidence that these people throw around taglines like highly amenitized living or resort style living to convince us that renting is just so much better than owning. I don't buy it. The tagline from this Atlantic article I think sums it up well. They promise to return profits to their investors and convenience to their tenants. Investors are happy, tenants are not. Because reality is Wall Street cares only really about collecting rent, with many tenants reporting instances of neglecting repairs or even being asked to make the repairs themselves. I don't know about you, but I do not want Wall Street to be my landlord. I don't own the land, yet I'm also responsible for working the land. Sounds a lot like indentured servitude to me. I think modern day society is summed up pretty well with this Mad Men meme. Basically, the character on top, Ginsburg, represents the regular person and Don Draper represents the ruling class. The regular person says, I feel bad for you, basically showing empathy even for the plight of a person who technically has a pretty good life. And the ruling elite, Don Draper, says, I don't even think about you at all, meaning that for the most part, the working class is invisible to the ruling class. I've said this in a previous video on my channel, but for the most part, if you are a part of the working class, you exist only to consume, and all other purposes of your existence to the ruling class is a nuisance. You are invisible to them unless you do something that will affect their material wealth, which is why billionaires, CEOs, and the like, they hate any kind of regulation, be it environmental, labor, or any other kind that would jeopardize their ability to accumulate wealth. So the only way working people become visible is through collective labor actions, strikes, boycotts, things like that. Only then will actual legislative change be possible. Something like the Stop Wall Street Landlord Act, which is supposed to tackle this exact issue, will only be taken seriously by Congress if you make them take it seriously. So whatever the issue, in this case housing, you could be sure that for the most part, you are invisible to the ruling class unless you make yourself visible. That's all for me this time. I think it's really important that we take news that's presented to us, like Wells Fargo taking a step back from their mortgage business, and actually analyze why they would do something like that and what that could mean for the future of housing beyond just what we're told by the corporate mainstream media. So if you found today's segment to be helpful, please take a moment to check out my channel 5149 with James Lee, where I explore many other different topics in depth. The link will be in the description below. Of course, also subscribe to Breaking Points. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.